Well, one of the reasons why INFJs are difficult to impress, so to speak, is that because they have very strongly holistic minds. In a sense, when you encounter an INFJ, you're encountering someone whose thought patterns, whose web of beliefs, propositions, attitudes, moods, thoughts, and so on, they already hang together pretty tightly. There is a holism there that is already functional and organically evolving at a slow pace, where there is not an inclination, therefore, to overhaul everything straight away, sweep everything aside and replace it with something new. This is not going to be something that INFJs will want to do or will naturally even think of doing or be tempted to do. And in this sense, often when they're presented with, the achievements of a particular person or the thoughts or worldview of a particular person, quite unconsciously, their first reflex would be to sort of see whether that can fit into their own holistic worldview. And so they'd be more likely to think, okay, yeah, this sort of validates my worldview, or this doesn't really, and I can listen to it, I can be polite, I can even try to see what I can, learn from this or derive from this. But the relationship will usually be a little bit too aloof, I think, to allow for a state of actually being impressed. And to the extent that INFJs are impressed, it will usually be, again, as per the way that they themselves are, by worldviews rather than by people. I would say that the one exception to this, in the sense that INFJs can experience being like really, really struck and impressed by someone, again, usually by means of their worldview, is if there is something in their holism of mind and their mental holism. There is sometimes INFJs are aware that there's a piece that's missing. The piece that will, once they acquire it, will be able to fix everything so that the holism can actually function as a self-sustaining mechanism. It's not always easy for an INFJ to quite find that piece, the key to the puzzle. They can spend lots of time searching for it. And of course, you can well imagine that if you're a slightly solipsistic INFJ and you don't really engage with external reality, you're only relying on the resources of your NI, looping it with TI, for instance, well, maybe you'll never find that piece because that piece is to be found in the external world. Okay, so that can lead to many INFJs of that ilk being sort of struck by a kind of low-key instability and vulnerability that don't necessarily show to the outside world, but they themselves feel it quite strongly. Now, if they happen to meet someone who has a worldview or who has an idea that they present to the INFJ, and the INFJ is able to identify that worldview, that particular set of thoughts as the missing piece, they might be very enthusiastic in embracing it and feeling in awe of the person who expressed it and thankful. And at an existential level, they'd actually be thankful to the person because they supplied the missing piece. And these things can happen. They're rare enough, but I've seen them happen. And I think that that's usually the context in which an INFJ can be impressed or struck or, in awe or admiring a particular person. And usually that person is coming, it's coming from external reality, not from their NI world, which is often why the missing piece usually is something that only an INFJ deciding to, engage with external reality, project themselves into external reality. It's usually that kind of INFJ who achieves that, and where the comfort zone of solipsism for that kind of subtype of INFJ can actually sometimes be a bit more of a smothering straitjacket to some extent. That can happen because it often prevents the attaining, a state where the missing piece is found. And again, if the missing piece is recovered or discovered in interaction with someone else, then that someone else might be endowed with the numinous kind of power, which, in fact, because it's rare and because it's such a large-scale solution to a big, long-lasting puzzle for INFJ life in this instance, often this endowing of this other person with that kind of power, it can even be a slippery slope. It can even be like, if that other person happens to be some kind of guru or some kind of spiritual leader, you could suddenly find yourself as an INFJ just being like very, very fascinated by the idea of following this person blindly because they have essentially solved your problem, because a lot of this happens subconsciously and the INFJ is not always aware that what happened was the missing piece to their mental holism. But that doesn't mean that they ought to start following someone blindly, never mind how important the contribution of that other person was to the solution of what they felt to be a deep-seated and long-lasting problem. So something to always keep an eye out for and to watch out for, because this can happen. Usually INFJs are they are friendly but distant, or friendly but detached. It's not quite attachment, you know, it's the friendliness of alienation. I cannot really express it better than in that way. But then you can have these bursts of passionate fascination for those rare beings that supply them with answers they were not able to find to the complexities and challenges of completing their organic mental holism. If you want to know more about the INFJ, you know that I have written 2 books on the topic. The Ecstatic Soul, which is on the INFJ mind, INFJ consciousness. It's a deeper investigation of INFJ consciousness and its existential manifestation, more by the inside of the INFJ mind. And here, this is a bit more by the outside. Of course, still talks a lot about the INFJ mind, but it's about the INFJ way of being in the world, including the contemporary world, a world often felt to be hostile to us. Hence the subtitle, INFJ Life in the Modern World. How to find meaning, purpose, and value in this world as an INFJ. There are lots of choices you can make to attain that kind of life. So this book explores that. It's recently out, good reviews. If you want to get the copy of it, you know, there's a link right below. If you have got it but have not dropped a review yet, it really helps with the referencing on Amazon to get more reviews, so please consider it. And don't forget, as always, that the lifeblood of my channel is is donations I get to keep it going in these difficult times, challenging times. And I've had a few more supporters lately that I'm very, very grateful for. You know that on Patreon, there's a link down below. You can, if you join, you can interact with me. You can make suggestions for new topics, because I'm always looking for new topics. I'm producing more content. It seems to me that you're enjoying it too, so it's great. It's exciting me. But if you have ideas, please share them with me over there. We can discuss. I do some Jung readings, reading excerpts of Jung sometimes as well. But overall, the main reason is supporting my work. So please consider it, because it really, really helps. And in the meantime, I wish you an excellent day, and I'll talk to you next time, guys. Bye-bye.